The chosen one, let them talk behind, you walk ahead. Your light is so bright that they are dazzled, they cannot understand you. But remember, leaders are criticized, elected ones are questioned, those who walk to the top are stoned. Where you stand today is only the beginning of the great victory that awaits you. Forget what others say. Look at your path, because the seal of victory is stamped on your forehead. The spirit of the winner is engraved on your soul. Those who talk after you will have to eat in front of you one day. Keep walking and write 77 in the comments, because your destiny is written at the top. They thought they had the power, that their presence alone could shake you. But the moment you entered the space, the entire atmosphere shifted. Every whispered insult, every smug glance, every calculated move to undermine you evaporated in the heat of your confidence. They tried to set traps, to throw shadows over your name, but you walked through without a flicker of doubt. And now, the same people who once laughed are stuck in stunned silence, watching as you carve your own path forward, untouched, undeniable. They wanted a reaction, to pull you into their little games, but you never played by their rules. While they waste their days crafting petty narratives, you build something real, something lasting. Their words were meant to pierce, but they slid off like rain against steel. Every attempt to unsettle you only proved their own weakness, their own smallness. They speak your name with bitterness, yet they can't seem to look away. You are the story they can't stop telling. Even as they wish you would disappear, they gathered in numbers, thinking that their collective noise could shake your foundation. They thought their words would linger, but instead, they dissolved into the wind, unheard, unacknowledged. One by one, they checked their screens, hoping for a sign that you had faltered, but they found nothing. The silence was deafening. You moved forward without a glance in their direction, and that absence of reaction. It was the one thing they could never prepare for. And then, the shift began. Their own bitterness turned against them. Their mockery lost its spark. Their schemes unraveled. They convinced themselves that they were in control, but control slipped through their fingers like sand. They threw stones, only to realize they were standing in glass houses. The weight of their own negativity came crashing down, pressing against them in ways they never anticipated. What started as a game became something else entirely. Their certainty turned to doubt, their confidence to desperation. Their laughter grew hollow, their words lost meaning. They tried to rewrite the script, to twist the narrative, but the ink had already dried. They wanted to see you stumble, but they were the ones left tripping over their own actions. The energy had turned, and it was too late to escape the consequences. They thought they were the ones writing the story, but the moment the curtain fell, they realized they were never the main characters. They needed you to react, to give them a reason to exist in this battle they created, but you never even stepped onto their stage. And now, with no audience left to entertain, they scrambled to hold on to what's already slipping away. The grand show they planned, it ended before it even began. They assumed they were in control, orchestrating every move, but the stage crumbled beneath them before they even realized it. Now they stand, stripped of illusion, no longer the puppeteers, but the spectacle itself. Their carefully crafted facade, built on deception and arrogance, has collapsed in full view of those they sought to impress. The whispers grow louder. The eyes that once followed them in admiration now avert in discomfort. Their bravado has turned into a cautionary tale, a lesson in the danger of underestimating the wrong one. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom. For you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. They believed they could dictate the rules, manipulate the game in their favor, but they forgot one thing. Chaos never bows to its creator. The very storm they summoned has turned on them, tearing apart every falsehood, every scheme they thought would bring you down. They reach for control, but it slips through their fingers like mist, leaving them desperate, scrambling to rewrite a story that no longer belongs to them. Their voices, once loud and commanding, now tremble with uncertainty as the reality of their own undoing settles in. They gathered in numbers, fueled by arrogance, believing their collective weight could crush you. But the moment passed, and their words dissolved into nothing, their laughter lost in the vastness of your silence. They refreshed their screens, searching for the reaction they were certain would come, but all they find is emptiness, a void where their influence used to be. The absence of your response echoes louder than any insult they hurled, and that silence is suffocating them. And now, the energy shifts. The power they once wielded has reversed course, returning to them with relentless force. They wanted a show, but they never expected to become the main act. Their confidence turns to unease, their audience dwindles, and even those who once cheered them on take a step back. The weight of their own actions is pressing against them now, dragging them into a reality they never prepared for. They thought they were invincible, untouchable, but the truth has a way of unraveling even the most carefully constructed illusions. They scream louder, hoping volume will replace the control they've lost. They throw accusations into the air, hoping something will stick, but the world is no longer listening. Their desperation is visible now, laid bare for all to see. And as their once loyal followers begin to distance themselves, they realize the most painful truth of all. It was never you who needed validation. It was them. They tell themselves it's not that serious, that they can spin this into something else, but the weight of it lingers. The more they resist, the deeper they sink, trapped in a cycle of their own making. They keep pushing, keep clawing at relevance, but it's already over. They set the fire, but they were the ones consumed by it. And the worst part? You never even had to fight them. They lost on their own. Every attempt to shake you only strengthened your foundation. Every attack they launched only exposed their own weakness. You moved forward without hesitation, while they remained stuck, tangled in the mess they created. The roles have reversed, and they feel it now. The power they thought was theirs never belonged to them at all. They should have known. They should have seen it from the start. But their arrogance blinded them, and now they stand amidst the wreckage of their own making, watching as you rise beyond their reach. They were never the ones in control. They just didn't realize it until it was too late. There are forces that collapse in the presence of something real. Not because they were confronted, not because a fight was waged, but because truth itself is unshakable. No words were necessary, no grand gestures required, just existence was enough. And now, the mirage they so carefully crafted has begun to dissolve, its fragile walls unable to withstand even the slightest pressure. The illusion of strength vanishes when reality steps into the room. Their carefully rehearsed act falls apart the moment it meets something that cannot be faked. They spent so much time weaving a web of control, thinking they could dictate how the story unfolds, but the weight of their own deception was always going to pull them under. The audience they once mesmerized is beginning to see through the script, no longer enchanted, no longer willing to play along. The whispers grow louder, the certainty they once carried now slipping through their fingers like sand. And the irony, the very people they sought to manipulate are the ones now questioning them, inching away, one by one, as the illusion unravels. The grand spectacle they built, once meant to expose, now serves as their downfall, and the only one still standing, the one they sought to break, because truth doesn't flinch, doesn't falter, doesn't bow. Some will resonate with this, others won't. That's fine. But for those who understand, those who never fit into the mold, those who see beyond the surface, those who were told to silence themselves but never could, this message is yours. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were never meant to follow the script. You are the force that reshapes the narrative, the storm that clears the fog, the presence that demands reality. While the world runs in circles, some carve their own path, even if it means walking alone. Not for recognition, not for validation, but because it is simply who they are. They take the weight meant to crush them and forge it into something indestructible. They hold knowledge not learned, but remembered. And if this speaks to you, maybe it's time to find those who walk the same road. There's a space where truth is the only currency, where masks are unnecessary, where transformation isn't just a concept, it's lived. The doors are open to those who recognize the call. The choice was always yours. They believed they could send destruction your way. They thought words could cut, actions could wound, chaos could consume. But energy doesn't disappear. It circulates, it returns, it finds its origin. And so it did. Every intention they released has boomeranged back, amplified. Now the weight of their own actions drags them down, their own bitterness constraining their every move. They are trapped, not by external forces, but by the very storm they tried to summon against you. And you, unshaken, because retribution was never your burden to carry. Balance has always had its own way of restoring itself. Now, they are drowning in their own creation, ensnared in the consequences they thought would be yours to bear. They move aimlessly, unable to build, unable to manifest, unable to free themselves from the chains they forged. Their energy is fragmented, restless, tormented by the very thoughts they wished upon you. They search for cracks, for signs that you have stumbled. But every glance in your direction only shows one thing: you have risen beyond their reach, and that is their undoing. The obsession, the focus, the relentless attempts to sabotage, they never considered the price of their fixation. Now, their world crumbles, their connections fracture, their own foundation turns to dust. They needed an audience to fuel the performance, but something shifted. The crowd no longer watches you. They watch them, and what they see is desperation, a spectacle of insecurity disguised as righteousness. They spoke too loudly, pushed too hard, revealed too much, and one by one, their enablers step away. The support they once counted on is now a void. What was once laughter is now silence. The people who once cheered now avert their gaze, uncomfortable with the truth that has surfaced. The weight of their own choices crashes down, undeniable, inescapable. They thought they could rewrite the story, but the pen was never in their hands. And now, as the dust settles, the only thing left standing is truth. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. They set traps, hoping to see you stumble, convinced they could rewrite your story with their falsehoods. But as the dust settles, it's their own missteps that stand exposed for all to see. The irony? You never needed to defend yourself. By simply existing in your truth, you became the silent force of their unraveling. Now, those who once reveled in tearing you down whisper apologies, hoping their past will dissolve into the air as if it was never meant to wound. But there's no sincerity in their words, only the fear of being left outside the world they tried to shut you out of. They never sought redemption. They only seek refuge from the storm they created. They never truly wanted you gone. They thrived on your essence, feeding off the very presence they pretended to reject. Now, in the void left behind, they scramble to reconstruct a reality where they were never the adversary. But time has shifted, doors have closed, and explanations are no longer necessary. What once had a place in your life is now nothing more than a distant echo. As you ascend, they remain tangled in the consequences of their choices, trapped in the web of their own deception. They anticipated chaos, craving a battle where they could pull you into their darkness. They schemed, prodded, and awaited retaliation, confident they could drag you into their storm. Yet rather than engaging, you remained steady, understanding a deeper truth. They were always their own undoing. With every action, they tightened the noose around themselves, mistaking arrogance for invincibility. And now, as they stand in the wreckage of their own creation, they search for an enemy to blame, only to realize the war was always against themselves. Meanwhile, your momentum never wavered. You didn't just rise, you soared beyond reach. The very words spoken against you now cling to them like shadows, the traps they laid morphing into walls that confine them. Every attempt to diminish you has only magnified your light, and they know it. Though they remain silent, their attention never drifts far, their curiosity an unspoken obsession. They monitor from afar, secretly hoping for cracks in your foundation. Yet each time they look, all they see is your continued ascent. And that is their greatest torment. Not merely that they failed to tear you down, but that they never truly despised you at all. They masked admiration with hostility, hoping to erode what they could never embody. What once was ridicule was in truth envy disguised as disdain. They sought to diminish your fire because they couldn't understand how to ignite their own. But instead of self-reflection, they chose resentment. And now they wrestle with the truth they refuse to face. They spent their time trying to dismantle something they secretly wished to understand. Now, they sit in the absence of what they once mocked, longing for the very essence they pushed away. But that chapter has long since closed. What once held weight now feels trivial. The battles they waged exist only in their own minds, as you've already moved beyond them, past the noise, past the distractions. While they circle the same cycles, you stride forward into greater victories, boundless opportunities, and a reality where they no longer hold significance. You are like a lighthouse, on a stormy night. The wind howls, the waves crash, and the darkness tries to swallow the sky. But that steady beam of light cannot be shaken. The storm does not decide the light's purpose. The waves do not get a vote in whether the lighthouse stands. It was built for this. It was chosen for this. And no matter how wild the sea may rage, that light shines on. You are like a tree planted by the river. The seasons change, the winds blow, the storms come, but that tree stands firm. Its roots go deep. Its foundation is strong. It doesn't beg for permission to grow. It doesn't ask the storm's opinion before it stretches toward the sky. It knows what it is. It was planted with purpose, and no force of nature can steal what was placed inside it. They thought they had power. They believed their words carried weight. But now, they are learning the undeniable truth. They were never the architects of your story. They never held the pen. They never had the authority. They only assumed control, because for a time, you let them think they did. But you see, just because someone sits in a borrowed seat doesn't mean they own the throne. Just because someone speaks doesn't mean their words carry the weight of truth. They tried to write the ending of your story, but they forgot something crucial. God never outsourced your destiny to them. Oh, they tried. They whispered. They plotted. They thought they could box you in, limit you, define you. They told you what you could and couldn't do. They acted like their approval was the key to your breakthrough. But the truth, the key, was never in their hands. And the moment you realized that, everything shifted. The weight of their opinions, it fell away. The fear of their rejection, it lost its grip. The power they once held, it was never real to begin with. See, the more they struggle to reclaim what was never theirs to control, the clearer it becomes that their battle was never against you. No, my friend, it was always against the truth they feared to confront within themselves. Because when people see you rising, when they see favor on your life, when they see doors opening that they swore should have stayed closed, they have two choices. They can either celebrate it or they can fight it. And some people, they would rather fight than face the truth. Because if they acknowledge what God is doing in you, they have to admit they were wrong about you. And for some, that's too much to handle. So they fight. They resist. They throw accusations. They look for ways to discredit, to dismiss, to downplay. But what they don't realize is this: their resistance does not cancel your calling. Just like the tree by the river, you are not shaken by the passing storms. The wind may blow, but it will not uproot you. The seasons may shift, but they will not stop your growth, because the source of your strength is not external, it is divine. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to prove yourself. Just stand. Just grow. Just keep walking in the favor God has placed on your life, because the evidence of His hand on you will be louder than any lie ever spoken against you. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them sit in confusion as they see you thriving, even after everything they did to try and stop you. They thought they had buried you, but they didn't realize you were a seed. And my friend, when God plants a seed, no man, no system, no opposition can stop it from growing. So stand tall, keep moving forward, keep trusting, because your story is still being written, and the author of your life has never made a mistake. And just like that tree by the river, you will not be moved. Oh, but that time is over now. The scales have fallen from your eyes. You are not who they said you were. You are not bound by their opinions, their fears, their small and limited understanding of what God has placed inside you. And the more they struggle to reclaim what was never theirs to control, the clearer it becomes that their battle was never against you. It was always against the truth they feared to confront within themselves. See, the truth has a way of standing tall, no matter how many try to bury it. It is like a seed pressed into the ground. The weight of the dirt, the pressure of the soil, it does not destroy the seed, it activates it. What was meant to be hidden, to be smothered, to be silenced, begins to push through. It breaks the surface. It reaches for the sky. They thought they could cover you in doubt, in lies, in small-minded expectations, but all they did was prepare the ground for something greater. The very thing they used to try and stop you has only made you stronger, because you are not ordinary. You are not just another voice in the crowd. You are chosen, handpicked, set apart before the foundation of the world. And when something is chosen by God, no amount of opposition can change its destiny. They watch you rise, and they don't understand. They see doors opening, favor increasing, peace flowing like a river, and they wonder how. They thought they had shut you out. They thought they had disqualified you. They thought their words, their rejection, their dismissal of you had settled the matter, but what they never understood is that your destiny was never in their hands. Your worth was never up for debate. They said you couldn't. God said you would. They said you were finished. God said you were just getting started. They said you were broken. God said you were being rebuilt. They said it was over. But my friend, with God, it's never over. It's only ever a new beginning. Now is the time to share God's blessings. By clicking the super thank you button on YouTube, you can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially, far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Some people will fight the truth their whole lives because facing it means letting go of the illusions they've built. They would rather live in a world where they are in control, where they get to decide who rises and who falls. But their illusion is crumbling, and deep inside, they know it. You don't even have to argue with them. You don't have to prove anything. Just stand. Just keep shining. Keep walking forward. Let the evidence speak for itself. Because the favor of God on your life will be louder than any lie ever spoken against you. The waves will crash. The storm will rage. But that lighthouse, that chosen, unshaken, unstoppable light, it keeps shining. And so will you. They were chasing something that was never within their reach, convinced they had the power to rewrite a narrative that was never theirs to control. But the battle they waged existed only in their own imagination, a war they fought against shadows while you remained untouched. No explanations were given, no closure was needed, just an empty silence that spoke louder than any words. Because in the end, they were never a match. The outcome was inevitable, though they refused to see it. They mistook their noise for impact, their schemes for influence, their words for weapons, yet none of it ever touched you. The truth was always simple. Victory was never a thing to be won, because you had already risen beyond the need to compete. They built a storm, believing they could force you into it, never realizing they were the ones standing in its center. The weight of their own intentions now presses down, turning every move they made against them. And while they search for a way out, clawing at the walls they constructed, you have long since walked away, ascending into a realm they can no longer enter. The echoes of their own actions now haunt them, returning in ways they never anticipated. Every attempt to diminish you has only amplified your presence, and they feel it. You remain imprinted in their thoughts, an undeniable presence they cannot erase. The story they tried to twist has become their own unraveling, and the lesson they refuse to learn is now a truth they must live with. What was the moment they realized their grip was slipping? When did it become clear that they were never the ones in control? Let them sit with those questions. Let them wrestle with the weight of their own downfall. Because now, the distance is immeasurable, the door is locked, and the game is done.